I am fat. I am a large fat person as well. The irony is that people call fat people lazy, uneducated, unintelligent, but actually our access to society is harder because of the size that we are. People will listen to this and think, but you have made decisions to be that size. Yes, I have.
Yeah, but come on, Lindsay.
Do you think the opposite of fat is health?
I don't think I've ever spoke about this.
Lindsay McGlone, Instagram expert and marketing genius,
who proudly spreads awareness for fat, queer and autistic people.
You went from 4,000 followers to 10,000 in 6 months.
If we have the knowledge that Instagram is a tool, then what part is that fixing in our business? And that's what we have to consider. My Instagram is leads and closing. Absolutely, I close on Instagram more than anywhere else. I always say that followers, not the biggest thing that you need.
Tell us more about that. In what way?
So a trial reel is what we upload to Instagram that is only shown to non-followers. And then what most people do is, well, performing trial reel, I post it to my grid. Don't.
Oh, wow. Like, generally, you're going to be in a higher chance of being healthier, living longer, and things like that by being, like, less fat.
Right now, I feel that I'm okay.
What do you honestly feel?
I will always be plus size, and I've never explicitly said I will never lose weight. I'm not saying that I never will. So, do I think if I made the decision to become smaller, that people would move away from me?
Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited for this because I know you've got so much brilliance to share. Obviously, we are, at the time of recording, a matter of weeks away from you getting on that stage at Business Mastery Live. So super excited for people to hear you speak on stage as well. Make sure you get your tickets if you've not got your tickets already. There we go. Got a quick promo in. We've done it.
That's it, we can leave.
Right, we're done. Yeah? No, we cannot, because you've got so much that I want to talk about today. I want to start with Instagram, because that is the thing that you have just dominated. You've built this incredible community, and obviously it's the thing that you help people with and you teach. I heard you saying that back in the day when you started growing it, you went from 4,000 followers to 10,000 in 6 months.
Done your research, look at that.
I've done a bit. Let's start there. How?
Well, I was obsessed. Absolutely obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
My full intention was to grow to 10,000 followers, because at that time, if you had 10,000 followers, you could swipe up.
I forgot that. That is how it used to be, didn't it?
Yeah.
That was like the thing that everybody needed to be able to do the whole linking, like swipe up for the link and stuff. Yeah, okay.
So I was determined to get that, because then I could work with more brands and do more collaborations. So that was my goal. And I was like, well, the only way I'm going to do this is to become obsessed. And I absolutely did. Kind of part of my personality.
Right. And there's a theme on this show. This is what we do as entrepreneurial brains, right?
Yeah.
We get a bit obsessed about stuff.
Just a tad.
A little bit.
So I decided to really focus on how to grow the following, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that worked then still works now. The main denominating factor is personal outreach and connecting with the individuals.
Right, okay.
And I would spend hours a day going out and reaching out to people, and not just follow for follow. We're not talking that. We're not doing like community chat groups and all this, but going out and actually finding people that at the time, they were not my ideal client now as we look at it, but the body positive community, the fat positive community. I went out to find them, spent loads of time connecting with them in a really rapid way, and obviously creating lots of content and other things as well. But the main thing was the personal outreach.
And that today you would say is still one of the main things.
Absolutely.
That works. Because I think there's that thing of I think some people get into that headspace of I'm putting content out all the time, but nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And that feels like the hard work, the graft really, doesn't actually having conversations. But at the heart of it, if you're wanting to build a community, it's all about relationship building, right?
Absolutely. And I find that a lot of people that say that social media or anything doesn't work, it's because we're prepared to do the work that they're not prepared to do. And I know it sounds brutal, but in actuality, that is what it means. Obviously, there's capacity. Different people have different lives. And I don't have any dependents. I live on my own. Yeah. I understand my privilege in that situation. But I absolutely do believe that the people who are not prepared to do what we do are the people who are not able to do it.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds brutal, but a lot of what I do is personal outreach, a lot. And it takes bollocks, like it does. Like, it really, really does. Because you get so used to hearing the no's. But the more no's you hear, the more ruthless you become.
Are we in the ruthless era then? Like, Lindsay takes no shit.
I think I was in the ruthless era last year.
Okay.
I think that was the year where I just couldn't care. I think this year was my intention to slow down. That, as of yet, is not happening.
Interesting. Okay. So, a couple of things there. The one thing I'd love to hear your perspective on is how to do outreach the right way. Because I know a lot of people find, and we've all had those DMs that feel like they're straight away asking something of us, or, you know, it's like, oh, I can give you this, or picking holes in what we're doing and stuff like that. What's your approach? How do you think about starting those conversations?
Okay, so the biggest thing is make no assumptions. That is the biggest thing. We can't assume whether people... I know we talk about ideal... I've got a whole thing about ideal client, but I know that we can, based on the content that they put out there, the people that they're connected to, we can kind of make an assumption, but I always go in with no assumptions. So I don't assume what's in people's pockets. It's none of my business. One of my bestest friends taught me that. It's none of our business what's in people's pockets, because those assumptions can kill our profits.
Right.
So I make no assumptions. I always go in intentionally to connect with the individual. Like, we have to connect with the actual person and take nothing for granted. So when I'm talking to people, I'm talking to them as an individual. And my motive at that point is simply to connect. What happens after that, I make no assumptions.
Right.
So I go in to connect. So I will only connect with people that I feel are aligned, that I feel that are my kind of people. And I know that maybe comes with some flaws, but I keep my spaces very protected, or I try to. So firstly, connecting with people and making no assumptions, taking nobody for granted. They're a human, I'm a human. It's not a phone screen that we're speaking to. Secondly, have an engaging conversation. It is social media, so we have to be social, believe it or not. And I'm autistic, so I find that really difficult. Like, pointless, meaningless conversations, not my bag. So I go straight in, and potentially that is why I do build relationships so quickly. But actually building a relationship and talking in regards to what they're interested in, what you're interested in, finding something really quickly that you can align in. So, for example, in my client-only Facebook group, the question that I ask them is, what value is important to you? Now, they don't know, well, quite a lot of them know now because they say, am I on your spreadsheet? But I have that on a spreadsheet.
Right.
So I know when I'm talking to that person that actually I can bring up that alignment, that value. I can say, this is important to you. I've remembered that. And that's how we continue to connect. So make sure that you're actually having engaging conversations that are not just all about you and what you're about to sell.
It's really interesting, because that made me just think then, that's how we first spoke. I saw you talking on a live video, and I was just really intrigued by you. I loved your energy. I loved your confidence. I loved the stuff that you were speaking about. And I was like, there was no intention other than that. I just want to actually genuinely connect with you. I didn't know you'd be on the podcast, you'd be speaking on my stage, all the stuff that we're doing now. It was just, I want to get to know you a little bit more, and I just want to just say hi, you know. We're in a similar space, we're doing similar stuff, let's have a conversation. And I think I'm guilty of not doing enough of that, actually. Like, hearing you speak there, I think as business owners, and we're wearing so many hats, a lot of us like solopreneurs, founder-led businesses, you've got to do a lot of stuff, haven't you? And I think it's coming back to that principle that business is all just about relationships. It's all about, you know, the more people that you can get to know, the more you can help, the more you can impact, and vice versa. And I think just coming back to that principle is maybe for people listening right now, it's just a good reminder. I think sometimes we're looking for the secret and the hack and all this kind of stuff. And actually just do the stuff you know you need to do, which is have more conversations. The ideal client thing, you said you got a whole thing about that.
Okay, so ideal client for me isn't Barry with a Ford Fiesta who lives in central London, which is probably a weird combination anyway. You can see how much I don't like ideal client.
Yeah.
But But I think when we're looking at ideal client, we need to look at the qualities that all our clients share, or some of them will be dispersed. Not all of our clients will share them all, but there will be a common factor or theme in their actual qualities. So we need to be focusing, when we're marketing and we're in our messaging, we need to be talking to the qualities that we are trying to alleviate, the emotions that we're trying to create, not this is a lady who wears a pink dress, has black hair and drives a whatever car. I don't drive. I just get Ubers everywhere, literally everywhere. But I don't think that those are the most defining factors that we need to be talking about. We need to be thinking about the qualities because we spend to alleviate emotion or create an emotion or for something to be easier, okay? So if we're doing that, why are we thinking about what car they drive, where they live, X, Y, Z? Because then also that feeds the narrative that we're making assumptions on where people live, what car they drive, what they eat, what they look like, and I just retract that whole narrative.
And I guess as well, there's an element there of it is just about putting people in price brackets. Can they afford my high ticket thing or my low ticket? And then that becomes something very different. And I know you've spoken openly about how, and we'll get into, you know, the important topics around like marginalised communities and the diversity stuff, the inclusion that you're such a huge advocate of and a voice for. But I know when you speak out for those communities, you speak about how people assume there's no money there. And already, like you're saying, they're making these judgments, right? Do you want to just touch on that and your experiences?
I think I experienced something last year that was very bizarre and jarring for me. So there's a few layers to this, but I like a lot of us, I came into this space, I didn't have money. Like, I didn't. I've not come from money. I'm awful with money as well. Like, I'm working on that. But
and you speak about that, which I think is good as well, and how it is something you're working through, right?
Yeah, like actively all the time working through. But people would make assumptions or would know at that point that I wasn't a lead or a client. Then I started talking out loud about the chunks of money that I was making, and all of a sudden I became valuable to them.
Wow.
And it was so apparent. Actually, I watched Helen Tudor's podcast and I mentioned to Helen that I really enjoyed it with you. Because I had a conversation with Helen at an event and I sat there and she was like, "Are you okay?" I said, all these people that have never acknowledged that I exist, that have known me for years, are coming up to me, shaking my hand, wanting to buy me drinks. And it's really bizarre because particularly as a marginalised and underrepresented person, what people don't understand is that when people look at us and buy us drinks and come to us with conversations and things, actually our lived experiences, then they're going to take photos of us and put it on the internet and mock us. They are having bets with their friends. They are using us until we're unhelpful anymore. So actually my guard is quite high. Like, I make no secrets of that. But money is such a driving factor, as it should be, and also don't assume what's in our pockets. And also, if you didn't engage with me 3 years ago when I had nothing, or presumably nothing, I'm not important to you now either. You don't get to decide. I get to decide.
Excuse me, right, I've got an important question that I need to ask you. No, not the guest, you, the listener. Have you bought your ticket to Business Mastery Live yet? If you're not clear, this is our biggest event ever. Not only in capacity, we're going to have about 500 business owners, entrepreneurs, content creators in the room. Not only in the calibre of speakers, we've got people like Daniel flipping Priestley speaking on stage and Scott Thomas, but also because it's our first ever 2-day business event. It's happening on Monday the 13th and Tuesday the 14th of April. And my advice is this: in a 2026 world, it's so easy to just do things online, but actually just because it's easy doesn't mean it's the best. In my opinion, as somebody who takes visibility very, very seriously, there is no substitute for building relationships in the room. I know events cost more money, they take more time, energy and effort, but they really are, I believe, worth the reward. And also, you can rest assured we are throwing everything we flipping can into making sure this is going to be one of the best business events of this year. And not only that, I believe passionately that the calibre of events that we see in London and in America and all them fancy places should be happening right here in the north of England. And if you believe the same and you want to support us, we'd massively appreciate you. But will you do me a favour and buy your tickets now? Because I'm not going to lie, it's stressful with you leaving it till last minute. So please, stop just listening to this podcast, give it a pause, click the link below the show notes, buy your ticket, and then I can sleep tonight. And I'd appreciate it. Have you done it? If you've done it, now we'll go back to the interview. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
Tell us more about that, if you're happy to, about what you're saying there about people using you or it being a bet. And because that's something, I guess, I think the people wanting something from you have got experience of, and struggling to trust people's motives, definitely. But that idea of them doing stuff for a bet.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously people have different lived experiences, and this ain't some counselling session. I ain't going to bring all my trauma. But essentially, we have experiences, particularly marginalised. And also, when I talk about marginalised and underrepresented communities, I also know that people who do not exist in those communities experience trauma. Like, I understand that. But what I'm saying is it's more common for us.
Yeah.
So particularly when I was at school, the amount of abuse that I would get because of my size, and I imagine my neurodivergence, but I just didn't know it then, and for being weird. And the bet thing comes from when I was at school, somebody had a bet to sleep with me, and they won the bet. I mean, fair play to them. But I found out that it was a bet. And this is the thing that people don't understand when people are talking to marginalised and underrepresented communities, or they are trying to build a relationship with us. Actually, we've got all this stuff that we remember from people like you. And I know that kind of retracts the narrative of what I talk about, because I've just said people like you, but that's why I've done this.
Yeah. If you're listening, inverted commas.
Inverted commas. So this is the kind of experiences that we bring with us when we enter any space, not just the business space. And also it happens in adulthood. I've had people refuse to work with me when I was in employment. Somebody said, can I swear? I've just swear.
You've already said it. Yeah, and you know that you can, surely. You know, you're on my show.
Okay.
We definitely swear.
Somebody, when I was working in care, said, I'm not working with that fucking fat bitch. She's going to be lazy. And I knew that they said that. So we can't make assumptions that what happens in school stays in school. It's just bullying. It's not. It's discrimination against people who are marginalised and underrepresented. So obviously I do bring in that to the business space, whether that's okay or not. But I do see it subtly, but I see it in the business space. No fat bodies on lineups. No fat bodies in Canva graphics, pictures, stock images. No fat people at your events. Not considering accessibility needs. No queer people. No black people. I do actually see it. It is just more subtle. So it can be quite jarring when I speak about it, because people are thinking, well, I'm not some kid at your school, Lindsay. No, but your bias is not as internal as you think it is. It's out loud. We can see that.
Yeah, and it's bringing awareness to that. I think for all of us, we all carry so many biases. And I have to thank you for the work that you do and the messages that you put out, because you've genuinely really made me take a look at myself, and I'm open to talk about it. That you realise that we are, and it's a product of our upbringing and our surroundings, our environment, and other people's beliefs that we take on and things like that. But when you actually start to do that work and even just shine a light on it, you go, wow, we've got so many, and societally as well, we've got so many things that are just accepted as this is the norm. When you actually, that's not okay, and that's not all right. And for you, using that one example there of the person winning a bet to sleep with you, which is just, I can't even imagine. And I know kids do stupid stuff and they're kids and all the rest of it, but
we weren't kids just for the police and everything.
But,
we were in school, we weren't kids.
Yeah. Okay, let's be really clear on that. Thank you. What is the impact, the real impact, things like that happening have had on you?
Well, that was school, so I can, compartmentalise it slightly. And I do a lot of reclamation work in the way that I dress and the way that I show up. The whole fat cow insult, I've absolutely embraced that. Although I didn't understand that people didn't know that that's why I wore cow print so much.
Yeah.
But it's to completely reclaim that whole idea that I'm a fat cow. I actually am. That's correct. Well done.
Yeah. Now what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now what you're
yeah.
going to say?
Yeah.
I think there was a conversation with my friends where we spoke about particularly visibility in the online space. And we talk about the visibility hangover. Like, you must understand this, where you've had a big event or you've been online a lot and everyone's like, Matt. And then you go home and you feel absolutely drained, right?
Yeah. Dark room, phone off, don't want to speak to anyone.
Yeah. So we've got that. And then for people who have had experiences similar to mine, particularly marginalised and underrepresented communities, we've got that extra layer of, when this used to happen before, it wasn't because people saw the value in me. It was actually because they were taking the piss. So we've got that extra added layer. And to be fair, anybody who's experienced bullying, right? And discrimination, they've got that extra layer of, when this happened before, actually, you was doing it to make a joke of me. So I have to really check myself and remind myself that that's not all that's happening here. And putting myself online is wild. Still, people say, oh, I love your confidence. I love your confidence. And obviously I'm confident. And also there's times where I sob because I feel so vulnerable. And nobody's forcing me to post those online. Nobody's saying, Lindsay, show all sides. But I do, to keep myself grounded and also to show what's possible for other people. So you will know if I've had an off time, because I will post about it, I will say. And I think there's just a lot of residual. Maybe it's not as profound as people think. It's not, there is times where I go home and cry and things like that, but it's not every day, like, who wants to go, like, who's going to say something next. But there's that residual energy that constantly I'm looking around, checking who's around me, who is maybe going to make quips or look at me. When people get their phones out, Jesus Christ, for somebody who is on social media, if somebody gets their phone out around me, I'm instantly thinking, what are they doing? Because that is the biggest thing I get on public transport, is people taking photos of me, videoing me, and thinking that I can't see. So it's just a residual energy. But, like when you've got a bill that you can't pay. So it's constantly there, but it's not destroying your life, but there's a bill you can't pay and it's in your head.
Yeah.
That's what it's like living as a marginalised person. Constantly there's a bill in our head that we can't pay, and we're always watching.
How do you manage that? How have you learnt to best manage that?
Good friendship group,
Right.
exceptional friendship group, and all of the people. I've got a couple of friends outside of business, but the friendship group, that the majority of my friendship group has been made from business spaces, and I keep those people very dear to me, and we share lived experiences. We also share where I have privilege and they don't, and we talk about that, we dissect that, we check in with each other, we actually check it's okay and they've got capabilities and capacity to have those conversations. So firstly, I have a really good friendship group, good community. And be all right with turning people off. Like, I use the word repulse, and that's quite a strong word. I do believe that some people in this space, and I'm aware that a lot of what I'm saying can sound like, oh, Lindsay, you think you really are done by, don't you? Like, everything's so difficult. I'm not saying that. Trust me, it is just a bill that needs paying. It's just residual. But I do know that some of the actions that I take online massively turn people away from me, and also fine.
I think so many of us really struggle being genuinely fine with that.
Yeah.
How can we be? Because a lot of people in the personal branding space and a lot of people teaching personal branding talk about, you need to stand for stuff, stand against stuff. You need to be okay with being unliked and disliked. But most of us, at the heart of us, we don't want to turn people off. We do want to be liked, loved, appreciated, respected, most of us. So how do you actually, because I think people say things like that, it's okay, but then also they're hearing things like you say, like, I do sob sometimes and it's really hard. What's your advice to us if we're going, I know I need to be okay with it, but I really struggle?
There's a difference between the emotional reaction to it and also internally being okay with that. Something can hurt and you can accept that decision.
Wow.
So, for example, if somebody chooses to end a relationship, it can hurt. You can also know that that's the right decision.
Right.
That's right for me and that's right for them. So actually, there's a massive difference. It doesn't mean that you don't have the emotive reaction to that. It also doesn't mean that you don't know it's the right decision. And I think that's the thing for me. If you're going to be put off because sometimes I put burlesque outfits on, or I show flesh, or I swear, or I look like a clitoris online, which is going to make no sense to anybody, because I make jokes.
Didn't expect us to go there. Not this early, anyway.
Because I make jokes that are quite sexual and innuendos. Obviously, of course, as long as you don't feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But if that puts you off, that's the right decision for you, and the right decision for me. Because if you can't get on board with who I am, you're not going to get the best of me. Because we've all had that client that we've worked with where it's felt like there's a friction, and there's like a debt now that needs to be paid, not a bill. Like we can feel it. We can feel the weight of that. When you feel the weight of that, you're not going to get the best of me.
Yeah.
So fine.
And the clitoris thing, are we allowed to talk about that?
Oh, it was the...
By the way, I don't think anybody's... This is like 200... I don't know what episode we're on now, 70-something. Nobody's ever said clitoris on my show, so thank you. Because I like talking about clitorises.
Of course,
it's
the queer who says clitoris. No, the other day I posted a post on Facebook saying I look like a clitoral hood.
Oh, fine.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. It's not as exciting as I was expecting.
No,
but
really not.
Okay, and you spoke there a little bit about reclaiming words, and I know fat is one of those words that you openly speak about. Do you want to just educate us on that? Because a lot of people I know, when they're talking to you about subjects like weight and so on, they'll skirt around, they won't say the word fat, or they'll say things that maybe they think are the more acceptable things to say, and they don't actually realise like how you might be feeling about those words. So do you want to just give us a little bit of insight onto that?
Yeah, so for me, fat is a descriptor. The more that we use it as a factual descriptor, we take the power away from it. And I notice it being very readily used in the online space. So can I ask you a question? Do you think the opposite of fat is health?
I would say that has been my bias, yeah, 100%. You've educated me more, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting is because we associate fat and not being fat with health, right? It literally is a description. I am fat. I am a large fat person as well. Whenever I get an opportunity to talk about this, I talk about this. There are, and this is an education piece, and some people might not be bothered, and that's okay. But there is levels to fatness, right? And people are like, fatness, don't say that word. There is levels to fatness, and the larger that you get, the larger that you are. And I know the people listening will say, well, you put yourself in that position, just hold your horses. Hold.
It's coming.
Right?
Give them time.
The larger that you get, your access to society and other things become smaller. The irony is that people call fat people lazy, uneducated, unintelligent. But actually our access to society is harder because of the size that we are. So now tell me I'm lazy, uneducated and unintelligent. Wow. Because the larger I get, the more things I have to consider in society. What seats can I fit in? What events can I go to? What events can I go to that there's going to be representation of people of my size? Yeah.
So you've got to work harder than most, the average standard person, just in terms of thinking about everyday decisions in that respect, right?
Yeah, and absolutely. People will listen to this and think, but you have made decisions to be that size. Yes. Yes, I have. And that's why I'm okay with it. I don't speak for every fat person, every plus size person, larger person. Some people are not happy with their body. And also body autonomy is so important. And that's why, and people don't need my permission. That's your right to change. They don't need my permission, but I do understand that some people wish to change their body. I also don't. So respect my autonomy to make that decision. And people will always make assumptions about my size. And again, fine. I will try and challenge them, and only people who are ready for those conversations are ever going to hear them anyway. This is what people don't understand. When I am advocated online and I'm speaking about what I'm speaking about, trust me, I know that the only people that are actually going to listen are the people who are ready for those conversations. But I could keep trying.
And when people do say, but Lindsay, it is healthier to be slimmer, and phrases like that, what is your honest thoughts on that?
My honest, true thoughts is that you cannot assume somebody's health based on the size that they are. You literally cannot. People will often talk about the correlation of health problems with weight, right? We'll talk about that. If you look at the language that is actually used, it will say more commonly found in people who are, right? It doesn't actually say cause of.
Yeah.
Where does it say cause of? Find me a piece that says cause of. It's commonly. And also, what people don't understand is some plus-size people actually have a lack of access to nutrition. That's why they eat the food that they eat. Because food that is, quote-unquote, not as healthy is cheaper. People who work in healthcare, ironically, they're working long shifts.
Yeah.
So it's easy, it's convenience to grab something, to eat it, and not think about that. So actually, there are so many other factors that come into play. If you actually look at somebody's food and what they eat, that can come into play with different health conditions. But and there'll be somebody who comments under this podcast that says, I found a cause. There's one that's a cause of being plus size. That's why you've got this health problem. But it's more common. That's the language that's used. It's more common.
So what would you say if people are saying, so that it's not necessarily a cause, but statistically, they're going to look at it and go, yeah, but come on, Lindsay. Like, generally, you're going to be in a higher chance of being healthier, living longer, and things like that by being, like, less fat. I'll use that kind of terminology. I don't know if that's the right one. So what's your response to that? And how do you feel about that? Like, do you ever think by not going down that route of actively saying, I want to shrink myself, you know, could I be doing damage to my health? How do you feel about that?
Here's an interesting take, and I've not actually ever shared this, so this is, like, wild. I do think there's protection in me being the size that I am. And I think there's protection in me being the size that I am because I've always been used to being treated this way anyway. Yeah. So I don't need to change that because I'm already used to people making assumptions anyway. And when we talk about autonomy of size, recently I've had really, really like hard, difficult conversations with people that are close to me to actually say, I don't know if I have autonomy over my size. True autonomy.
Wow.
Because when I was growing up, I was plus size. I was always fat, right? When I got in certain relationships, I was encouraged to lose weight. So I did to make them happy. So then I lost weight, right? So then my autonomy was taken again. Then when I left certain relationships, I ate everything that surrounded me, right? Because I can do what I want. This is my body. You no longer have autonomy. Actually, it's taken me a long time to sit and think, when I say I have autonomy over my body, am I deserving myself that yet?
And what do you honestly feel?
I think I will always be plus size. And I've never explicitly said I will never lose weight. I've never said that line, ever, on anything. Never said I will never lose weight. And also, right now, I feel that I'm okay. That doesn't mean that in a few years' time, and, you know, people will be in the wings, like, told you so, told you she's going to lose weight because she had to. Like, I'm not saying that I never will. I'm also saying right now, there's different parts of your life that you exist in, and I'm just existing, and I will continue to advocate, but I'm not saying I never will.
That made me just feel emotional because I can't even begin to imagine. Because one of the things that goes through my mind that you just covered there is when you do stand for something and you do really openly say, I actually am happy with who I am, one thing I think about a lot is, and as somebody that posts online and is building a personal brand and people have opinions on, I am a person that's really open to change my mind on stuff. And one thing I felt strongly about a year ago, I might not today. And I think that's healthy. I think that's good to always be learning and evolving and figuring out what did serve me once might not again, and that's okay. But I do feel for you, when you're being so strong in some of these opinions, do you have that pressure of, can I be open to change my mind, and can I be open without that backlash, I guess? And I think, without answering the question for you, that there's something in what you spoke about earlier about really being okay with, well, they're just not my people. And even like if there's people that are your people right now, and then you change your mind on something and they're no longer your people, that's okay too, right?
Yeah, because we evolve.
Yeah.
We are constantly ever changing. We go through seasons of our lives when some people are not going to be around anymore. And especially with growth as well, like growth in life and business, people tend to move away because they no longer can relate, right? So do I think if I made the decision to become smaller that people would move away from me? Yes. Is that a decision for them to make? Yes. Would I be sad? Yes. Is it still the right decision for them? Yes. There's a difference between the emotional reaction and knowing whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah, and all things can remain true at the same time.
Yes.
This episode is sponsored by Dr. Tania King-Mohammad. She is the High Ticket Woman, the #1 best-selling author of the High Ticket Method, and one of the most sought-after high ticket experts in the game. Basically, if you are an entrepreneur who is serious about scaling their business, you need to grab a copy of her book right now. Literally, I have read it and it is a game changer. It will blow your flipping mind. Tania is the mentor that the entrepreneurs call once they are finished playing small and are ready to start charging their worth. Working with Tania is all about creating consistent high-ticket sales and doing it in a way where you can create a freedom-level income without the constant hustle and grind like a lot of the other mentors bang on about. If you're listening to this show, you already know you're somebody that's meant for more and is willing to go and work for it. So basically, you need to get into Tania's world. Go and grab a copy of her book right now on Amazon and make sure you give her a cheeky little follow on Instagram. She is at Freedom with Tania and she's consistently giving strategies, tips and advice over there for free so you can start charging your worth and actually starting to believe in it.
One thing that I'm really grateful to you with is these kind of conversations when it comes to your lived experiences, but also when we're just speaking more broadly around inclusion and diversity. You, and I know we had a conversation a few months back, you really enable me to feel it's okay to ask questions and not feel stupid and not feel lectured. And I think you might disagree, but I think people probably feel you might be a lecturer.
Oh, God, yeah.
Right. So you get that.
Absolutely. I think I'm a knobhead.
Or just knobhead, yeah. But that has really not been my experience, like getting to know you and speaking with you. You really enable me to know it's okay to make mistakes. And that then enables me to feel I can ask the questions and then I can educate myself. And it's like we all do better by doing that. So if somebody's listening that maybe some of my listeners have not been really proactive in educating themselves on diversity, inclusion in their business and things like that. And if they're just starting to go, do you know what? I'm hearing you now. I want to now take this a bit more seriously. How can we be better? How can we be allies? What are the questions we should be asking? What should be a good way that we approach these subjects?
So the first thing that I want people to know is that through becoming more diverse and inclusive, you're going to make more money. Like you're literally opening your pool of people that are going to buy from you. Literally. So when, we are motivated by cash, right? Absolutely. Not just that, but if people say that they're not motivated by money at all,
yeah,
I'm sorry, no.
Yeah.
Like, we are.
Yeah. It's just how our society is. It's how life is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you become more diverse and inclusive, more people can buy from you. So if you need a reason there's your reason for me to convince you. Now's your actual reason. The actual reason that you should be more diverse and inclusive is because we're all humans. And the more that you open yourself up to understanding other people's lived experiences, the more that your education becomes better, your perception becomes wider of things. Like, because I've spoke a lot about diversity inclusion of lineups in particular. And there's lots of conversations around, well, why isn't it just the best person? Or why isn't it just, the person with the expertise? But the thing is marginalised and underrepresented people have learned that they have to be exceptional to be able to be even let in. So actually, by letting us on your stages, you are creating exceptional work. So it isn't who's the expert in this. It's actually bias that means that you're not going to let us on your stages, for example. The very place to start for me is to listen. Really listen. When it makes you uncomfortable, when it makes you angry, because that's, when somebody's being told they're wrong in any situation, that's going to emote a reaction, right? Absolutely.
It's an ego thing, isn't it? Like, instinctually, we want to be right.
Exactly. And you're going to be in a position where you feel that you're being attacked because we're going to share our lived experience and that's not going to be familiar to you. What I want you to do when you're in that situation where you're reading something is take a deep breath, regulate yourself. And I'm not even I'm not mocking, I'm being serious. Take a deep breath, regulate yourself. Know that we're not attacking you. We're sharing our lived experience. Come back and reread it. Reread it again, and think, what are they actually saying? And also, don't fill in the gaps. What we're saying is what we're saying. A lot of people think, oh, well, that means that when I've done this and when I've done this, and that means what they're trying to say is, we're not trying to say anything. Trust me, if I say something, I mean what I say. So don't fill in the gaps. Reread it and really listen. That is the place to start. Because you're going to feel attacked. You are, because you're being told that you're wrong. And I've been in that position. I've been called in by my own community. People don't understand that. They think that, I think that I'm this shining star that's above us. I absolutely don't think that. But what I do is make sure that my community know that if there is something, they could come to me.
Right.
And in the last year, because of how visible I've been, I've probably been called in more than the rest of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there anything, examples that you're happy to share? What are some of the things?
Trying to think how I can say it without making it really obvious. Maybe disability. So there was a comment that I made that was completely, again, my privilege. I made a comment that I didn't even think related to a disability. And one of my community came to me and said, actually, when you said that in jest, that is something that I do by accident because I'm not able, I'm trying to anonymise it out of respect. Yeah. That is something that I'm not able to do. And you've made a joke about it because it's something that I do because of my condition, and you've just made a joke about it. And I was like, shit. And I sat with it. I took time before I responded. I went back to them, I responded, and they've gone on to consistently be a client. That's one of the times. I think as well, again, in our friendship group, we massively are able to check each other. We're massively able to just say politely, do you think that was the best thing you could have said, or could you have reworded it differently? Again, with age, I've learned a lot from my friend Heidi about how I would talk about I don't want to get old and I worry about aging, but actually age erasure is very, very large. People after a certain age are erased from society. They're no longer our use. Right? So I had to learn as somebody who's 28 that I was making comments that were perceived as that I was also part of the people that was erasing people of a certain age. So I had a very good conversation about that. So it isn't that you cannot get everything right. That is not the expectation. I think people, I see a lot of posts about I can't say anything because everything I say I get it wrong.
Right.
They're always going to find a problem. Them. I'm the them. Marginalised under them. right? They're always going to say something. They're always going to pick a hole with something. Actually, we just want you to learn and care.
Yeah.
Just listen to us.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to go a bit deeper on there, because there is this perception out there, which is, I can't say anything now. And there's that whole thing of like, we can't even have a sense of humour now. And I know you've got a wicked sense of humour. So I'd love your thoughts on this, about where is that line between caring, being interested, educating ourselves, and still being able to mock each other and have a joke in a way where it is banter and we're not feeling like we're policing language or cancel culture and things like that. And to your point as well, I do think as event producers and people in the online space, there is that feel of, I can't ever get it right, because I think of this, and this, but there'll still be that, and that. So then it puts people off wanting to try it all. So I know there's kind of probably 10 questions in that, but just sort of thoughts around that.
I think particularly with the whole, I can't do this because I'm not going to do this right. Where's your intention? And when we say, where's your intention, we know. Like, we can read it when somebody's doing it just for the financial gain.
Right.
Because what will happen, and I've seen it happen a lot, is people will be open to the conversations, move the dial on inclusion and accessibility. Me and people who are close to me and other underrepresented, marginalised people will move away. The dial will turn straight back down.
Right, okay.
So actually, create the action. And then if you can't do everything, what is your intention? Because it's not the point of intention that we go, oh, brilliant, safe.
Yeah.
That's not the point that we do that. It's when you've set your intention and then you come back to it.
Nice.
That's when we see, oh, okay. So people will say we can't do anything right because they've changed the toilet signage and they've thought about disability access, and then somebody's brought in something else. So what is your intention to do with that information? I'm still not going to be safe in your space. I'll watch you 6 months' time. If you've actually done what you said you were going to do, then I'm going to come back. And also, people don't want to think of the longevity of the work that it takes to actually set that standard. People want to write an inclusion and accessibility statement, say that everyone's welcome.
Yeah, done.
Like, everyone's welcome.
Yeah.
You can get in my venue. It's fine. And then people still watch on the sidelines, because what they don't realise is they're waiting for their friends to go who feel that they can access those spaces and report back.
So I think there's an element, so I'm reflecting on that and I'm thinking, so what we have to be mindful of is it takes time for people to build trust with you. And we know this anyway, right? But it's not a case of, right, I've done my thing, I've put it out there, everybody now knows. Yeah, but can they actually trust that that is the real deal and that they are your intentions? And so they might not buy your thing just now or come to your event just now, but it's like you've taken that first step. And just like in anything we do in business, you don't expect instant results, right? It's an ongoing thing. What about the point around being, I guess, not worried that everything you say is wrong, or still being able to have a sense of humour and things like that? Because it also just made me think about what you were saying almost before about there's this constant thing that, like, the debt, the bill you can't pay. And I, if I'm honest as well, I notice, because I know you're really intentional about this stuff and you think about it with all your conversations. I know there's been times where you've said, can I just say I didn't mean this? And I've wanted to be like, oh my God, Lindsay, don't worry. Like, I almost feel bad that you're thinking that deep, because I don't want you to feel that anxiety, that stress.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an autistic trait. That checking in, like delivery,
okay. Yeah.
like the delivery of that was intended in XYZ. So that's more of a, I'm checking that what I've perceived in my head has come across the way that I intended it to.
Yeah.
So that's more of a personal thing.
Yeah.
I think the thing around joking is, who is the butt of the joke? Jokes are always, like, literally always, if you think back to a time that you make jokes with people, they're always safer with the people that you know. You know, the things that we say behind the scenes that we think people can't hear?
Yeah.
They're always safer with the people that we know. That means we've spent years of understanding our relationship with them. We've set boundaries with each other. We've formed a friendship, a relationship, however that looks. Which means that when we make that joke, we know that it's going to land safe with them. Not always, So who's the butt of the joke and who are you making the jokes with? That's the deciding factor.
And I guess that's a hard one to get right. And especially because we talk about authenticity online and showing up as yourself. And I know we're all sick of hearing it. I know. And at the same time, it is still important when you're building a personal brand, right? So, you know, it's that thing of who you really are is who you are with those friends when you feel the most comfortable. And so, one thing I'm thinking of, because I think it is context dependent, and that's a part of what you're saying, right? Is where are you saying these things? Who's the butt of the joke? Who does it? What's the intention? It's those kind of things. So that makes me think of, for example, one thing I'm insecure about. I don't think I've ever spoke about this, but I am insecure about my height. And I think one of the reasons it stems from previous experiences in dating and things like that, and where there is a narrative out there that you're more attractive as a guy if you're 6 foot. However, one of my best mates in the world, he calls me a short ass, and I laugh uncontrollably when it's between me and him. Because I know his intention, I know it's his little way of getting bantering with me. And when he says it, but so then I guess my question is that a me problem? Is that, because I can take it from him, but other people I can't.
But you've built a relationship and safety around him.
Right.
So you can make a judgment on whether that is safe to you.
So then that's something for all of us, I guess, that we've just got to be more aware of, is it's the relationship with the people that you're saying that. How do we do that online when there's loads of people watching us?
Don't put other people at the butt of your jokes.
Yeah.
Like, if the joke is another individual, like, you okay, hun? Like, if somebody else is the butt of your joke, then there's something going on there.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what you've just described is like banter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's familiarity. And it's almost a term of endearment. Yeah. Like, you're right, short arse. Like, that's, it brings familiarity and endearment and a term of affection even. But if somebody out there, like in the wilderness, was going to say that to you, you'd feel a way about it.
Really, yeah. I would, yeah.
Because you've not built that familiarity or relationship. And they are also making assumptions that it's okay to say those things.
This is something that I think is really good about conversations like this, because quite often when we're just seeing those 30-second clips and Instagram reels and things like that, we put things in binary boxes. And I think the beauty of this conversation is way more nuanced than that. And I think even just having this conversation now, it's making me clearer about how to communicate in a way where I don't have to lose that banter and who I am, but equally I know certain things work with certain relationships that wouldn't work with others, and that's okay, right?
Yeah, you're not going to go and kiss your colleague. So why would you... Do you know what I mean, though?
Completely.
Literally.
Yeah.
You're not going to kiss your colleague, so why are you then going to go and assume how somebody is... Make no assumptions. It comes back to make no assumptions.
Yeah.
Why would it be okay? For example, for me, tiny thing, really important to me. If people abbreviate my name, it makes me want to squirm. So if people call me Linds, I will correct them immediately if they're not in my close circle. Because actually to call me Linds is a very term of endearment. It's people who are very close to me.
Right.
So if people who are not close to me call me Linds, I will politely call them, like, speak up on it and say, please don't call me Linds. And that's based on assumption, relationship, and knowing that person, that individual.
I love this. And I just really hope, that there's been those moments in this conversation so far where people go, that's just helped me see things clearer. And that's something they can take forward from this conversation. Okay, I want to go down something that you and I are both big fans of, which is launching.
Yeah.
And I know this is something you teach and you help people with. So I'd love you just to give us a bit of background on launching, your experience with launching, and importantly, how you approach launches. Yeah.
Launching for me is like drugs. Launching for me is absolute dopamine, right? I absolutely want results, and I want to get the best out of it for the clients as well. But it is a dopamine choice for me. And also it's really important to say not everybody can do online launches,
right?
Not in the typical environment, right? And it's important to say that when I first learnt about launching was through one-to-many. I'll always say it, because I had literally no idea that they even existed, right? I didn't know what this launching was.
Yeah. And it's probably important to say, when we talk about launching in this context, we're saying like an online launch of something like a group program, a course, membership, those kind of things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the first online launch that I did was absolutely diabolical. So I had 600 people sign up to the challenge. I was buzzing. People were telling me, you're about to make a lot of money if you do this right. And I was really smug. I was like, 600 people in the challenge, it's going to be great. I sold 4 spaces.
Wow, talk to us about that. What did you learn from that first launch?
I learnt that we're often told give people what they want. Assumptions. Again, like, let's ask people what they want before we decide what they want.
Right.
So at that time, I was massively in the body positive community, talked about body confidence, fat positivity, XYZ. I had thousands of people in my community that were of the same wavelength to me, right? So I was like, I'm going to do this body confidence challenge, and I'm going to sell this course. It's going to be amazing. But actually, those people didn't want to spend with me yet. The people that wanted to spend with me wanted to learn about Instagram.
Right, okay.
But I became arrogant. I went into it arrogant. I assumed I've got this knowledge now. I know how to launch. It's going to be great. Went in, sold 4 spaces. And it was the best thing to happen to me in business. Because it teaches you to be humble, teaches you to do better. And also, when you've had a quote failed launch, I nearly sang The Only Way Is Up then, but literally, then the only way is up, right? You can't go from that any other way. So again, I became obsessed with the metrics. How can I create an experience? And I come from a cabaret background of over 10 years. And I was like, there's something in this about the experience. When we're at a show, we can smell the drinks that people are drinking. We can break the fourth wall. We can speak to the audience directly. The lighting, the atmosphere, we know that has, and this is why events is so important, but I'm sure we'll get onto that. But this is why they create an experience, and it's all encompassing. So my approach to launch is now to become all encompassing from the point that they make contact to the moment they don't buy. Because they're still in my experience, and what they go on to then say about their experience with me in an unpaid capacity turns into paid clients. So and I know you do this, you give everything, right? You're exhausted after your launches.
Always.
We have to remember that energy is an expendable. It's an expense, right?
Yeah.
So when anybody is spending their energy with me, currency, that's the word I was looking for.
Currency.
Yeah, energy is a currency. So I don't take, again, no assumptions, don't take anybody for granted. These are the things I keep telling myself over and over again. When they're spending their energy with me, they're getting the same experience. And then they go on to talk about the experience that they had with me, regardless of whether they're a paying client or not. So it isn't just the outcome. And trust me, I'm obsessed with metrics following up. Like, I'm looking at abandoned cart. I'm looking how long you've been on my website. I'm checking how many times you've clicked, and you're all getting a message. And I'm going to tell you everything I know about you. It's going to be really weird, and you're going to love it, right?
Yeah.
I do all that. And also, the time that they come to you to sign up to your free whatever, and the time that they leave and beyond, they are creating their narrative around you, the knowledge that you have. We must deliver an experience.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also, it's interesting, when I'm working with the client that it's like their first launch, I always say, let's change the metric for success here. The success is, did you do the launch? That's it.
Yeah.
If you did it, it's successful. Because to your point, like, the best thing that happened in business was getting just 4 sales, expecting more, because all the lessons come from that, right?
Honestly, I thought I was doing a £10,000 launch on my first launch. I was telling people in pub,
Before
I'm
it
going to
done.
make 10 grand next week.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah,
it was ridiculous. It was so humbling.
And I love the points you've made there. So one is make sure the offer is actually aligned with what people want. And one easy way to do that is ask people. It's something we did for our mastermind. We spent time having conversations. If you was going to join, what do you need, right? And I think it's easy to just assume based on what you see other people do or, you know, what you think you would like, and actually ask those people. And I love what you're saying about it being an experience and whether people buy or not, making sure they leave going, hey, I've given you my most valuable asset, which is my time, and it was well worth it. It was well spent. Is there anything else you would say in terms of, I mean, I guess, do you see now launching as relatively predictable with the amount of launches you've done? And is there trends and is there things that you can educate us on that we need to be aware of?
If you do this one thing, bold, it will change your launch. And I absolutely believe this. So, and I hold on to this like it's gold dust because I'm really selfish with it. I gatekeep, all right? I gatekeep this one bit.
She's admitted it.
So a lot of people will do follow-up, right?
Yeah.
So we'll do like, oh, did you enjoy the challenge? Did you watch the masterclass 3 days later? Are you joining in with whatever we're selling? Then on the last day, let's do a breakup message, you know. Here's the one thing that's going to change your launch. As soon as they make contact with you, talk to them.
Wow. So it's pre-launch.
Absolutely. So whenever somebody signs up to something that is free for mine, particularly in the launch, I can't say that I'm absolutely militant with any freebie that I ever put online, but in the launch period, I make sure that as soon as they sign up to my free masterclass, they're going on my spreadsheet. It's a very big spreadsheet.
Yeah,
I don't
can
handle
imagine.
the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Nah, somebody else does that for me.
Okay.
But then I will go round and speak to every individual that is signed up just for the free masterclass to say hello. Like, I will do personal outreach. Voice notes are best for me because I feel that people know that that's actually me.
Yeah.
And then we're making that contact prior and also. So when you're doing your free experiences, if you've checked in with every person that's signed up already, you have knowledge on them, you know what they actually want you to deliver, and also when you're the person of influence, right? So you know you've been to a concert, favourite singer on stage, you know when they make eye contact with you for 6 seconds.
That's the moment.
And you're like, that is it.
Yeah.
If they're new to your world and they come into your challenge or free experience and you can say by name, oh, I remember Boris.
Yeah.
That's probably an awful name to pick. But Boris wanted help with how to use Instagram in a way for a product-based business. Boris has never met you before, but you've remembered that and you've said their name out loud. Gives the same effect of the 6 seconds in the audience.
Huge. That is gold.
Yeah.
And I've now immediately gone to Boris Johnson being at one of your events.
I find
is the
that
most
highly
unlikely
unlikely.
thing ever.
Well, actually, he wouldn't be allowed in.
It won't be exactly.
Yeah.
That's the first bit, which is why I thought it was quite funny. That was funny. Golden. That is so good. So we've done launching. I think around launching, obviously, content is key as well, and being visible. It's not just, I mean, you've said there the outreach, and I think people will probably be surprised to hear, because that's the theme you said back in the day when you went from 4,000 to 10,000 followers. It's always been the outreach thing, and that's not the easy work. It's the hard work.
A lot of no's.
And it's getting used to that and being okay with that. Let's talk about content as well. So right now, I know like a few months ago, we're hearing about there's lots of algorithm changes and things like that. So at the time of recording, what are some of the things you've seen that maybe used to work that are not working? What are the things we should be doing? And also what is working like, what does that mean? Because are we looking for engagement? Are we looking for virality? What's your take on all that?
So let's think about Instagram. Okay. Instagram is a tool. It is a tool. It is not, and everybody finds this really contradictory because I teach people Instagram. Your Instagram is not the make or break of your business. You could literally not have Instagram and still have a business. I'm not going to sell you the dream here, right? But if we have the knowledge that Instagram is a tool, then what part is that fixing in our business? And that's what we have to consider. So
that's the first thing to look at it. It's how we see Instagram.
Yeah, literally understand what problem does that fix in my business, or what does it make tighter, or what does it deliver for us, right? So then once we've got that knowledge, then we use that to use it accordingly. So are we using it to generate leads? For example, my Instagram is leads and closing. Absolutely, I close on Instagram more than anywhere else. Leads and closing. And also a bit of credibility because people see my followers and they think, oh, you look cool on the internet. I always say that followers, again, are not the biggest thing that you need. Of course, there's that natural credibility that comes with the amount of followers that you've got.
But as we know as well, only a small % of your followers actually see your content anyway.
Exactly.
And I'm hearing more experts speaking out now that followers matters less than ever on Instagram now.
Yes. The only thing that followers actually show is an intention that more people will engage. It doesn't show that they're going to engage.
Right.
It just shows the intention. So decide, are you using it to generate leads? Are you using it for credibility? Are you using it for press and media? Are you using it to sell? And people will say, well, I use it for a bit of everything. But try and use it for one thing or maybe two. So decide what you're using it for and then make sure you turn everything up on that one thing. One or two.
Yeah.
Turn it right up on that one thing and then it will become your best asset in your business.
And I think this is, again, a key piece of advice across everything in business is it's the idea of stop trying to do everything and then doing loads of stuff average. Just do one or two things really, really well, right?
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by Laura Robson and Back Pocket Office. Now, let me tell you about this one. Laura is somebody you need in your life. I have got her in my life, and all I can say about her is I don't know how I'd live without her. And it's true. If you're anything like me, you will hate tech. You'll be great at launching and creating the marketing material and delivering on the actual product that you're selling. But when it comes to the back end, making sure it's all automated and it all works, I just can't be bothered. And if you're the same, Laura is the solution. Laura is a systems strategist and she's also a certified launch and funnel specialist. And if you are a service provider, if you're a coach, consultant, any kind of online business that provides some kind of online service, then Laura is there to help sort out all your funnels and systems for you. With over 14 years experience, she's somebody who's going to get you solutions quick. She's easy to speak to, very approachable, and just really friendly and nice, basically. So if you are ready to get your systems and your funnels all sorted for you and work with one of the best in the business, go check out backpocketoffice.co.uk and connect with Laura on socials. The links are literally right below this episode in the show notes. Go click it, and I mean this. Go and do it now. You will not regret it.
What about actual content that's working at the moment in terms of getting engagement? Because I know a lot of people speak about reels versus carousels and things like that. What's your thoughts?
So engagement, if we actually think about it, we can have a highly engaged piece of content, but that not sell for us. So again, you've got to decide. You've got to decide what you're doing with that content. And also engagement now is so flippant in the sense that we could have a lot of engagement on one piece of content and it still doesn't serve our business.
Right.
So the posts that are getting the most engagement is lifestyle content behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But how is that serving your business? Because if you're putting content out there that's not engaged, but it's selling for you, what's your priority? So as awkward as it sounds, there's no blanket answer because if you're going for engagement, post loads of lifestyle content, opinion pieces, behind the scenes, you're going to get engagement from that. If you're wanting to sell, then you need to use selling content on your Instagram and your engagement will plummet. Right? I'm sure there's people out there that can do both, but generally.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about practicalities of what's working on Instagram, behind the scenes content, carousel content with an audio, and make the carousel as long as possible. I always say to people, when we're thinking about algorithm changes and things like that, we can't ignore them completely. And also we can always remember there's a human behind the screen. Again, a human-centered approach, a person-centered approach. So if we actually think about the tangible way that people engage with content, if you've got a carousel that's 8 slides long, what are they doing with that content? They're consuming it longer. That becomes a larger touch point. They're reading, they're engaging for longer. then naturally that content is then pushed.
Yep.
So we actually have to think about how the person is reacting to that content rather than always just the algorithm. Again, there's people that are experts in algorithm that I will always say have more knowledge because they're closer to Meta and the inside of the workings of that. But the way that I approach Instagram is a person-centered approach.
And it's so interesting. I did experience recently where part of my secondary messaging, as we call it, was being somebody that is single in their 30s and like my experiences of that. And it is one of those things where the ego kicks in and it's frustrating because that content, I realised there's a certain way I speak about that subject where if I do that every time, I'll get massive views. And it's literally just saying, you know, I think the hook is something along the lines of, I'm single, I'm 34, and I'll just say like, does anyone else feel or whatever. And it was just supposed to be a bit of secondary messaging. But then I had to just stop doing that content because it was bringing the wrong people. Literally, my DMs became like Tinder. You've then got everybody going, I feel the same. Do you want to go for a drink? All this kind of stuff was happening. I was like, oh, no, this is not what I was. I mean, you know, it was lovely and all the rest of it, but that wasn't the intention. So I think there's a really good lesson in that, in just because something's working in terms of engagement, it doesn't mean it's working for your business.
Yeah.
But then there's the ego thing of, but I want the views, and we've got to be mindful of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And ego does come into play with it. Yeah. And we can't pretend it never does. It does with me. Like, if I think I literally put a post up the other day that says something along the lines of, I just want my ego boosted. It wasn't that. Right. I put better words in. Yeah. Insert better words here. Right? And that didn't serve my business at all.
Yeah.
But it was absolutely for me to feel better about myself. Mm-hmm. And also, I always say post with purpose, right? What is the purpose behind every piece of content? That does not mean that every piece of content you're going to put out there is going to serve your business, but do you clock the purpose of that?
Right.
Even if the purpose is, I think I look hot today, so I'm going to post a piece of content. If that's your purpose, just clock it, because naturally clocking the purpose will make a difference to how you post.
Love that. Now, I know you're going to cover more of this stuff when you speak at Business Mastery Live. And one of the things that I'm really excited for is we're saying to people, if they want to send us a screenshot of their Instagram, you're going to get it on screen and you're going to talk us through what's working, what's good, and maybe what we could change to make it better. So I'd love to touch on that a little bit now about what are the general things you see in terms of mistakes people make with their profile.
Okay, so the first thing is your profile is a shop. Your Instagram is a shop, right? So you've got the shopkeeper, which is in the stories. You've got the catalogue, right? And you've got the content. Your content are your ads consistently because we don't know who they're going to be shown by. So when you look at a billboard, that's an ad. That's your Instagram content.
Right.
That's the content, okay? But when somebody walks into a shop, if there were no prices on anything and it wasn't clear it was a shop, we wouldn't buy. So the first thing that you need to do on Instagram, please, for anything above us, if it exists, what I really need people to do is make it clear that you're somebody who's selling a service.
Right.
It's the slightest thing, but so many people don't have it clear that they're selling a service in their bio.
Right.
So if you think about the demand from our audience, they come to our content thinking, oh, it's beautiful content, incredible, love it. And then the cortisol becomes higher because then you go, oh, now you buy my thing. And then they switch off.
Right.
When people come into a situation that is consensual, the demand is lower because they know actually they're following a business that's going to eventually sell to them if they choose to opt into that.
Yeah.
They're more natural. The buy-in is more natural. So for the first thing you need to do is making your bio clear that you're a business. I don't mean put, I'm a business owner, right? But make it clear what service you provide and that is a paid service. The second thing is in your bio, remember how quickly we swipe through social media. You want your first link to be as low demand as possible. So something free or really low paid. Because we know that our email list is currency. And if Instagram was to go down tomorrow, what would we do then?
Right.
So we need something super low demand in our bio links, in the links. Because if people come to our content and instantly they click on something and it's a £200 £2,000 program, that's not going to keep them engaged. Whereas if we get them on our list, we can nurture them.
Sure.
So you want a low demand link in your bio. And also profile pictures. Like, it's super simple stuff on the top end. Like, you want your face and you want it to be clearly identifiable. No filters. We just scrap. It's not 2002.
Yeah.
We don't want no filters. And also, keep that profile picture for as long as possible. Because, again, we build a relationship with who that person is. We want to be instantly recognizable, not just in a room, but actually on your content. So make sure that your profile picture is actually one that you're prepared to keep for a very long time.
Right. And it's interesting you say it should be of your face, because a lot of people think if they're building a business, it should be a logo or, you know, something like that, like the branded stuff. But we've got to come back to, and I don't know if you know any of the stats, but, you know, it is that thing of people buy from people.
Yes.
And personal brands always perform better, generally, right? Rather than just this perfectly looking branded business page, right?
Yeah. And I like, there's nuances to that. Like, when I dyed my hair, I was like, oh, for God's sake. Because I had red hair and then I had to change everything to this hair. And then now I've got to commit to this hair. Like, I realised I've got to commit to this hair now because I've changed everything over.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's other things that you've got to consider. And it does come down to personal brand as well, absolutely. And founder-led content. But making sure that you're instantly recognisable, but not just in a room. We talk a lot about in a room, but actually on your content. And also, what's that identifiable piece in your content? What makes them think every time that that's Matt or that's Lindsay? What are those little quirks that we do where people go, imagine if they could read your content without a picture or a name, would they still know it's you?
Right. Wow.
Because that's how they build a relationship naturally.
What about trial reels? Shall we speak about that and just explain if people don't know what a trial reel is?
Yeah.
Like, talk us through that.
So a trial reel is what we upload to Instagram that is only shown to non-followers. And that is pushed out to non-followers to see if it's well performing. And then what most people do is a well-performing trial reel, I post it to my grid. Don't.
Oh, wow.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Because if you've got to think about, again, what your gain is.
Okay.
But if you're wanting to grow your following, why would you then show that piece of content to people who already follow you?
Right.
So leave it on your trial reels so that only non-followers find you and then make a decision if they want to follow you. I did a little experiment between Christmas and New Year, even though I wasn't meant to be working, but, you know, I absolutely did. And I grew my account, I think it was, I'm maybe paraphrasing, it was definitely a few hundred. I think it was 300 followers in about 9 days from nothing but trial reels.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the things that you're saying there is make the content specifically speak to somebody who's no idea who you are.
Yes.
So that's why you wouldn't really then share it as well. That's another reason, right, why you wouldn't then share it to your existing audience, because it's not really built for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of my trial reels, and, you know, a lot of my trial reels are so simple, it's ridiculous.
Tell us more about that. In what way?
So it'll just be B-roll, which is B-roll where you're not directly speaking to camera.
Right.
So you're tapping on a keyboard, doing makeup, whatever, if you're a makeup wearer, like anything like that. And then simply say what you are and who you are and who should follow you.
Really?
So my trial reels were literally, because I was talking about doing 100k a year last year. So my trial reels over that period of time were literally, I'm a fat, queer, neurodivergent business owner who's made 100k in the last year. If that sounds like something you want to follow, here I am.
And it was those that helped you get
Absolutely.
the 300.
It's almost pathetic. Like, it's almost so ridiculous.
Yeah.
People are like, why would I put that content out there? Now, you wouldn't put that content out there if you wanted to sell, but why would you be selling to a cold audience anyway?
Yeah, it's not really going to work.
You
for
could
most.
literally grow you could say I'm a single 30 plus whatever person who owns a business. If that interests you, follow me. But you could literally do
I think
that.
I'm going to end up with the Tinder stuff again.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you could be that specific.
Yeah.
Or you could say, I am a business owner who is particularly interested in raising the voices of the North, who has an event in Leeds. Do you want to follow my progress?
Okay.
Follow along.
I'll let you know how that goes then. I'm going to steal that.
And also, it's not just what you write, it's how long you do them for. So I did about between 3 and 8 trial reels a day for 9 days.
Wow.
That's why I say make them super simple. Remember, your audience aren't going to see them. Why are you bothered?
So this is interesting. There's so much that I'm hearing from this conversation today about volume of stuff.
Yeah.
And again, I know you've touched upon it. We all have different circumstances. You know, you and I, for example, we're not parents, and there's things like that that will affect people's experiences.
Absolutely.
But what is your general thoughts then? We hear about things like work-life balance, and we hear about things like being relentless or obsessed isn't healthy. I mean, would you consider that you are quite obsessive, and how do you feel about the criticism?
Last year I was obsessed, and it's interesting, right? Because I wouldn't consider it being a problem. And when I'm about to say what I'm saying, I'm not saying anybody said it's a problem, but only when other people... Now, I'm not talking about the wider community. I'm talking about people close to me.
Okay.
Only when they have brought that up have I started to question myself on whether it's a problem. And I had a very recent conversation with my cousin, and I said, what if I was obsessed with my business, my family and my friends, and nothing else? Would that make me a bad person? I was like, shit, why am I even asking that? But I did. And she went, no. And I was like, thank you. Because I think we hear a lot about the negativity of obsession and work-life balance and, you know, looking after yourself, and all that comes into play. But we also get to decide whether that obsession takes over.
Right.
Yeah. We have the autonomy to make the decision. And a lot of business owners that grow quickly, I always say, people say, can you grow a business if you're not obsessed? You can grow it, but not as quick.
Right.
So actually, I get to choose if I'm obsessed.
Right.
That's my choice. Do I have a work-life balance? My living room would tell you no. Literally, my whole house, like, I've got whiteboards in my living room, in my kitchen, in my office. Like,
Brilliant.
it takes over
Yeah.
pretty much, especially when I'm in launch. It's, like, ridiculous. Like, when they're coming to fit the boiler, what's all those numbers on the wall? I'm like, nothing to do with you.
Yeah, don't worry
Nothing
about
to
it.
do with you.
Yeah.
Work-life balance, I don't think it exists. I don't think it exists. We have autonomy to make decisions around what we do in work and what we do in life. But I do believe they're so entwined, especially when you're a business owner. Maybe that's my narrative right now. Maybe that'll change. But I am obsessed, and again, for me, it comes back to that idea that I've always been taught that I have to be exceptional to even be let through the door. So why is being obsessed with my business something that I should be guilty of? Because I've always been taught to be exceptional to even open the door. So then I'm obsessed, and that's okay.
And we have seasons in our life where different things serve us.
Yep.
And I think the key is self-awareness.
Yeah.
It's recognizing what season are you in and why are you in it. And if that is serving you right now. And I also think, I don't know your thoughts on this, but, well, you kind of said similar there, but if you want to build something really substantial at a higher level, I don't think it is possible without it being a really full-on obsessive endeavor. I think there is an element of that. Can you still have a business that brings in income without that? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you say, and how fast it grows, again, will be determined by how much you're putting in. But I think it's the self-awareness piece. Nobody gets to tell anybody what's right or wrong. You get to decide how you build your business and how big and how much money and how much impact, all those things. It's about us knowing what's right for us, right?
Yeah, and also with the word obsession, think what else comes with that. So when you're in a relationship, stay with me. When you're in a relationship, you will have heard the narrative that it's always more flattering to be wanted than needed. Right? So when you're needed, there's a toxicity. When you want, then there's a flattery, there's a choice there. I want my business to succeed. I no longer need it to.
Wow.
Like, I want this. I want this for myself. I get to romanticize my clients. I get to romanticize my life. If you think about what obsession actually means in business, I get to deliver the best results I possibly can and change other people's lives. I want that. I don't need that.
Right.
There's a difference between need and want. It's always more flattering to want something, and I want my business.
Amen. And I'm so with you on that. I love what I do. And so it's like when people start, like, exactly the point you've raised there, I reflect on other times where I've been obsessed and it has been a need. It has been from a place of pain, of I've got to, I need the money, I need to make this work, I need to prove to myself, these kind of more negative reasons driving it. And today's very different. And I think, again, like, that served me because that did matter to me, that I made more money and I changed my circumstances and so on.
Exactly, yeah.
So, but again, it's a self-awareness piece, right?
Yeah.
Lindsay, this has been amazing. Thank you, genuinely, for being so open to discuss all these kind of different topics. I cannot wait to see whose profiles you get up on stage and the things that we can learn from you at Business Mastery Live. Just before we start to wrap up, I have got some of the questions that I ask all guests on this show. So the first one is, what is some of the best life advice you've received and why?
The best life advice was from my grandma years ago. I was a kid. And I was a quiet child. Not for very long. Yeah, not for very long.
I want to interview you about that now. I need to know. Lindsay, quiet.
And my grandma looked at me and there was a conversation happening. It was something really like almost irrelevant. But she looked at me and she said, I feel like you always have something to say. And she said, all you need to do is say, excuse me, can I say something? And she used to joke that I've never shut up since.
Love it.
And it's been the best thing that I've done in my life, is not shut up.
Okay, flip side. What is some of the worst advice that might have been well-meaning, but you've learned through life experience it's a load of rubbish?
I don't know if it's advice, it's more narrative that we need to fit in a box. That the picket fence dream, oh my gosh, I've done the mortgage, I've done the engagement, I've done that life goal of owning I think maybe it's understanding that each life goal is different to each person. And I absolutely thought that I made it when I was engaged and I owned a property. Now I can't wait for that property to not be mine. And I can't wait to rent. And I can't wait to just do whatever I want, right? So I think it's more the narrative that there's this picket fence dream because actually there isn't. We've got our own dreams.
So quite often when we listen to podcasts like this, we put the guest expert on a pedestal because they're there because they've got something they've got an expertise in. And I think it's really important to always remind people we're all human. We all go through stuff and we're all just figuring it out as we go to some degree. So if you're happy to share, what is something right now that you're finding challenging? And importantly, how are you navigating that? How are you working through it?
Ooh, something that I'm finding challenging. I would say my confidence, ironically. I haven't felt this low in confidence for a very, very long time. And there's stuff that I can absolutely amount that to, and that doesn't need to be on here. But I think really grounding myself in what self-confidence, self-love really looks like, and actually understanding that sometimes when I don't prioritise myself, and I don't mean health, well I do, but when I don't prioritise how I view myself, that I attach that to outside factors that then makes me view myself better. And when they've gone or they move away, then where is my confidence at? And I think I am realising very recently that I need to work on getting just Lindsay's confidence back in the truest of form and what that looks like.
And how are you approaching that?
Stripping. Contextually.
Yeah, we've knocked in context there, right.
I'm a burlesque performer, so I actually, in this moment, feel great. I performed last night, reconnecting with my body, like, this is probably a bit bizarre, but like reconnecting with my sexuality, my sensuality, things that make me feel good, reminding myself that I always look mint, like always. Just having those affirmations for myself, reminding myself who I am, saying to myself what I say to other people. And one of my taglines is, remember who the fuck you are. Like, I need to remember who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
And who I am without any external factors. So that's what I'm doing.
Beautiful. And it reminds me of a quote that I've said many times that a lot of people in my community know is like a Matt quote. But I say, when you look after the basics will look after you.
Yeah.
And I think quite often for us as people that teach others and support others, we say this stuff a lot, but quite often you can fall into the trap of going, I'm not doing it as much as I used to, because it's like, it feels like basic stuff now.
Yeah.
But we have to go back to them because they're always going to be foundational, not just were foundational, but right now. And so it's that quote, to know and not to do is not to know, right? It doesn't matter what you know you should be doing, are you doing it?
Yeah.
And so I love that you're just reconnecting with some of those basic principles that make a big impact.
Yeah.
Lindsay, thank you. This really genuinely has been such a great conversation. I'm sure people are getting so much from this. If people want to come into your world for the first time, get to know more about what you do, I'm assuming Instagram's a big one, but how can they connect with you?
Find me on Instagram. It's Rolling with Lindsay without the G. I can't change it because my blue tick's real. I didn't pay for my blue tick.
Yeah.
So if I change it, I lose it. Then I'll have to pay.
Does that happen if you change your name?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's
Because
Rolling.
I've thought about changing mine because mine's
Don't.
Matt Hall Official, which is so wanky, and it's something I created a long time ago, and I've thought I need to change that. Because whenever I get asked on podcasts, I'm always like, I want to stop saying that, but I didn't realise you'd lose
Yeah.
the blue tick.
Just remember that I walk around saying it's Rolling with Lindsay.
Yeah.
So, you're good.
You get it.
Matt Hall Official is fine.
Yeah, okay.
Find me on Instagram. Tell me a value that's important to you.
Nice. Okay, and that's rolling without the G.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, Lindsay, final question before we finish is, what is your definition of success?
I find that this is ever changing. So my current definition of success is to always be in choice. The more money that I make, the more decisions I'm able to make off the back of that, the more freedom that I have. For somebody who's had a lot of autonomy taken away from them by society and all the other things, as long as I remain in choice, whether I stay in business, whether I lose it tomorrow, it's my choice. And that's the biggest thing for me, to remain in choice.
Lindsay, thank you.
Thank you.